Hey guys, Script here with another video. I wanted to take us back in time a little bit. So there's this whole controversy and people like myself are kind of wondering why they would hire this director to direct this movie. I've had a lot of responses on Twitter about, some people saying, but she's won Oscars, and other people saying, this is horrible, this person's like a man hater. And I want to just clear the air just 100% totally. So when Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy says stuff like, I'm going to be the first woman director of a Star Wars film, and she makes a big deal out of it, and that's like her thing. Is there some narcissism there? It's very entirely possible. It sounds like that. That's what I said. It sounds like that. The other side of the coin is this is kind of her whole career, right? Her whole career is making documentaries about the abuses that women suffer in Pakistan and the Middle East. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out the belief system behind that. And I'm not saying that's all and that's everybody, but we can all sort of identify with the idea of why she would feel that way. She's experienced, or at least seen and knows, and I'm sure knows people that have been through some really horrible stuff. I haven't watched her documentaries. I've only read about them. I know what they're about. So I'm not sitting here saying I'm an expert about everything she's done, but she's a documentary filmmaker. And somebody said on Twitter, they gave me this like list of all these guys like Kubrick and all these guys that like never had any experience and then got into filmmaking. But none of those people were handed a massive big budget, top 5, maybe top 3, maybe not anymore, but at one time top 3 IP of all time. I mean, before Lord of the Rings, if you asked anybody in, 1990, what was the number one intellectual property in Hollywood, people would probably say Star Wars. Now, Marvel's, of course, come in and all those other things, but it's still a very, very high-end, or at least up until, Disney really started making movies and stuff, was still considered a very high-end IP. And they're still high-end in the sense that they're going to spend a ton of money making movies if they do make movies. So the issue for me was none of those other directors that were successful, they all got like art pieces, small budgets. Even Spielberg, what he was able to do with E.T., it wasn't as if that was like some multi-crazy billion-dollar, or millions and millions, hundreds of $1 million budget. It's just they were able to do things. And they were writing those films and also creating them. So she's not the writer of this film. Let's make that very clear. It's Night, and nobody's really talking about that. But she's going to direct his script, and her entire background is documentaries about women's suffering going on in Pakistan and in the Middle East. So you're kind of like, where's the connection here? Why would you do this? It doesn't even necessarily have to be like an anti-man agenda. I just think you're hiring somebody who's a documentary filmmaker. She's admitted in interviews that she has zero film experience. And again, those other directors also were in the same boat. However, they were not handed a monster budget Star Wars film. And so for me, more than anything, this is a Kathleen Kennedy hire, right? She's trying to, her whole goal is for more women to be involved, right? So she's hiring women for The Acolyte. She's hiring women for all these shows. She's got, half of the Lucasfilm executive team and all the most powerful positions are all women. The writers team has a lot of women. And there's nothing per se wrong with that. But if you're going to do that, you have to be extraordinarily careful that you bring in women that are first and foremost fans of Star Wars. So personally, for example, if I was going to have a woman write a Star Wars film for me, if I was the head of Lucasfilm, I would be scouring the talent pool for women that have shown a aptitude for not only action and adventure and fantasy, but also those that do have a degree of love for the Star Wars stories. And this director doesn't have any of that. Yes, she checks boxes, but I'm sure there was somebody that would check boxes that was actually a really big Star Wars fan and stuff like that. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. I don't even blame Sharmeen. Sharmeen is just who she is. She's saying what she's saying. Her background is dealing with issues of women being abused and all those things that have gone on. And so in her mind, that's like at the forefront of her career in her mind. And she's made many, many films about this. So I don't necessarily blame her. It's just that's who she is. I blame Kathleen Kennedy for thinking that this is a good idea. And not only that, somebody who has absolutely zero experience, and she admits that. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because you'll say, well, but that doesn't necessarily matter because yada, 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 other people have done it. Okay, so here's her first step into the waters of the sort of action-adventure genre, or the superhero genre, for example, which does to some degree dovetail into Star Wars. There's a lot of action, there's a lot of adventure, all those things. So Ms. Marvel suffered massive reshoots with Star Wars director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. And I wanted to take this back to the past. This isn't a recent article, and the other article I'm going to talk about also is not recent. So what happened with Ms. Marvel? It's learned that episodes of Ms. Marvel, and this is April 17th, 2023. It's learned that episodes of the Ms. Marvel Disney Plus series underwent massive reshoots that were directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. And if I'm mispronouncing that, I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. Who is Kathleen Kennedy's choice to direct the new Star Wars movie featuring the return of Daisy Ridley as Rey. The info comes from Hollywood writer and producer Cameron Pasha, who released all the insider information about Kathleen Kennedy, where it said Bob Iger wants her gone and the two are clashing. For me, that's all anecdotal. I don't know how true that is. And this is where people on Twitter get these like theories and stuff that like Kathleen Kennedy knows where the bodies are buried and all that stuff. They make these comments. At the end of the day, it's, she probably does know a lot. Like, listen, Hollywood's kind of a cesspool. It is. How many people have to come forward? How many more have to come forward about how kind of gross it is? So she probably does know a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, if that's why she's in the position she's in and she hasn't been removed, that's sad, because then she's not there for the right reasons. She's just there because the people that are above her don't want her exposing them. So fine, whatever. It is what it is. So I don't necessarily believe that, although I won't say it's untrue either. I just don't know. It's claimed that the original plan at Star Wars Celebration was to give Kennedy a big send-off, as she will be leaving Disney and Lucasfilm following Indiana Jones 5 this summer. Except she's not. And I did a video about this a while ago about how even in her absence, her resignation, quote, contract still has her showing up on set, being involved. She's not actually leaving, which does lend credence to the idea that maybe she does know some stuff and people are protecting her for some reason, because when everything's like a loser and you're losing money, and that one guy on Twitter was like, oh, but they made $6 billion off the Star Wars movies. Bro, they bought it 12 years ago for $4 billion. Making $6 million off the movies, when you consider like the budgets and the marketing and the toys and everything, is nothing. It's a massive failure. They should be in the $10-20 billion range by now. However, it said Kathleen Kennedy wants to stay on for another 5 years. She wants to. And it's almost like if she wants to, she gets to, which again lends credence to the idea that maybe she knows some stuff. I don't know. And that she is challenging Bob Iger about who she hopes will leave the company before she does. So instead of going with her big send-off at Star Wars Celebration, instead, and unbeknownst to just about everybody, including Iger, Kathleen Kennedy announced a Star Wars Rey movie. So Bob Iger didn't know. That sounds hokey. He probably knew. Brought Daisy Ridley on stage and also promoted the Acolyte series for Disney Plus. That was said to be a big surprise to those at Lucasfilm. Said to be a big surprise. I wish there was a footnote there, because who didn't know? Is she just announcing stuff? Now, that would actually make sense in the overall sphere of her constantly announcing projects, and then you find out that they're kibosh, like Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron, who nobody complained about because Patty Jenkins had a history in the superhero genre. She's an experienced director, done stuff. Nobody cared. Not a single person on Twitter was like, oh, Patty Jenkins. But now we're all bigots because we're wondering why a documentary filmmaker talking about like women being abused in her documentaries and admitting she has no film experience is all of a sudden now a director of a Star Wars movie. But we're bad. It's us. The Rey Star Wars movie, is the flick that Damon Landau was writing and bailed on, with Steve Knight now on board, as I mentioned earlier, as the writer. It's also the film that has newbie Chinoy attached as director. The plot is said to take place... Yeah, we already know all that crap. Yeah, whatever, she went on stage. As Cameron Pasha points out, sure, while Chinoy may have lots of experience directing documentaries, feature films are an entirely different ballgame, and Chinoy has no experience directing large budget movies with large casts. Yeah, she admits that. According to Pasha, 2 episodes of Chinoy directed at Marvel with Ms. Marvel Disney Plus series had to be reshot entirely. Ms. Marvel is also the least watched Marvel series on Disney Plus, and Iman Vellani is now going to star in The Marvels, which is having problems of its own. And of course, we all already know what happened to The Marvels, and this character is in it, and obviously the TV show did not do them any justice, and so nobody cared about the movie, and it was a massive bomb. Which again makes you wonder why Kathleen Kennedy would hire this person, if she had any interest in the good of the company, or is it just about hiring her friends? Chinoy, a fellow Pakistani, I'm Pakistani, and who has won a couple of Oscars for documentaries. She's never made a feature film, he explains Pasha. I have friends of mine who have won awards for documentaries and tried to break into features. Completely different animal. Okay. What I like about this is he's not doing well, we're the same because we're Pakistani. We're both brown, so I have to agree with everything being done because we're a tribal attitude, which we're seeing a lot of these days, right? It's like somebody that's the same race or sex or whatever, gender, whatever thing they're talking about. It's like, we have to support them automatically. People don't think like that. That's a social media thing. Most people have their own brains. Pasha continues, they know how to interview people. They know how to edit footage. That's what a documentary is. Absolutely. They don't necessarily know how to get an actor on their mark or do special effects or create dialogue that's convincing, that's not from an interview. That's a whole other set of skill. I don't think Dave Filoni really knows how to either. Pasha adds, so this woman has never done a feature film. You're going to give her $200 million, $300 million. The only dramatic experience she has. She was given 2 episodes of Miss Marvel. I have multiple friends who work in Miss Marvel and said yes, they had to reshoot the whole thing. Didn't work because she didn't know what she was doing. And she's admitted she doesn't know what she was doing. Why was she hired? Pasha also points out that Stephen Knight is trying to make a comeback as he only has Peaky Blinders and is only known for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire from back in the 90s. So Pasha thinks Kennedy's Rey movie announcement doesn't make any sense with Shinoy directing and Knight writing, and much like Kennedy's other Star Wars projects, won't be happening. So this guy thinks it's not going to happen. Although up to now, we're now in January 2024, so we're 10 months later, 9 months later, it does look like it's happening, which is crazy to me. So that's the first point, okay? So again, I'm not trying to bash Shinoy. I don't care. Shinoy is what she is. I haven't seen her documentaries. For all intents and purposes, they're really good. And the reality of it is that, you know, if you're bringing light to an issue of abuse of women in certain places, that's a good thing. Like, okay, of course, what are we going to do about it? But that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. I have nothing wrong with a documentary filmmaker. So that's April 17th, 2023. She has no idea what she's doing. Why did she get hired? Makes no sense. So now we go to June 27th, 2023. Kathleen Kennedy says new film will move Star Wars past George Lucas's original version, will introduce new characters and start with something fresh. What does that mean, moving past George Lucas's original vision, and what does that mean to have a director that has absolutely no experience, no business being there, directing a movie that's moving past George Lucas's original vision? And when I see something say moving past the George Lucas vision, it means it's something that isn't what he envisioned. It's something different. They can say moving past, but it's different. And they say moving past because it's implying that it's better, it's getting beyond that, it's progressing forward, but it also implies some major changes to what he envisioned. Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy continued to provide more details about the upcoming race-centric Star Wars film and revealed it would move past George Lucas' original version, blah, 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 we know that. Speaking with Games Radar, Kennedy discussed the upcoming Rey film, which she has been calling New Jedi Order in previous interviews, telling the I think it's always great about Star Wars, it's a big galaxy, and we're coming off what was a major war win with the First Order, and now Rey has made a promise to Luke, and that's really the core of where we're going and what the story will be. Can somebody correct me? I don't remember Rey making any promises to Luke about starting any new order. Did I miss something? I refuse to rewatch the demise of Skywalker. So can somebody inform me if that was a promise that was made? If so, I stand corrected, but I have no recollection of that ever happening. So that sounds super made up. And I think it offers just tremendous opportunity to introduce new characters and start with something fresh because we culminated with what George was creating. No, he didn't. And now we take all of that and move to, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. He wanted the grandchildren, plural, of Anakin Skywalker. That's what the sequels were about. There's myriad of interviews. I'm not even going to get into that. No, you did what you wanted to do and made Rey a nobody who just takes their name. Not only did Kennedy reveal this will be the core of the film starring Daisy Ridley as Rey, but she also revealed it will tie into James Mangold's film that will tell the story of the Disney's version of The First Jedi, which I'm predicting this now. You can say what you want, but the origin of the Jedi movie is meant to explain why Rey was so powerful because she shouldn't have been so powerful. Even if she was this stupid dyad they added 30 minutes before the end of the entire saga. That still doesn't mean you know what a Jedi mind trick is. You still have to, somebody has to tell you what that is. You don't just know that and just are able to do it. So I think they're going to try and use Mangold's film to try and justify how powerful Rey is. This is a mess, guys. This is a total mess. And I've been right most of the time with these predictions. So that's just my call. I could be wrong, but I'm just saying. It was something that Jim immediately sparked to. And I think it's a really nice compliment to know what we're doing with moving into the future with Rey and then understanding a bit more of where this all came from. Where this all came from. Her excessive force powers and no training and no nothing. And out of nowhere, just is a Jedi, because it will be at the heart of creating the new Jedi Order. So to get real sense of where that might have began with the Dawn of the Jedi could be pretty cool. No, it wouldn't be cool. No, don't do the Dawn of the Jedi. I want the Force to be mysterious. I don't want you morons trying to justify Rey with the very first Jedi. This guy... I don't understand. It just gets worse. These comments come after both films were announced at Star Wars Celebration in April. In press release, Lucasfilm detailed Rey-centric is set 15 years out. Yeah, we know that. Chinoy will tell the story of rebuilding the new Jedi Order and the powers that rise to tear it down. The director then delighted fans by welcoming Daisy Ridley to stage, confirming she will be reprising her role as Rey. Now, again, to be clear, she didn't write this. Knight wrote this. So she's regurgitating the ideas that were presented to her. As far as I know, this is not somebody who is knowledgeable of Star Wars, was never a fan of Star Wars, is literally a documentary director who directed movies or documentaries about abuse of women in Pakistan. There's nothing to do with Star Wars. So she's just parroting what they told her. And so that's not her fault. It's not. In the end, I want to stress to people on Twitter, on social media, she is allowed to think what she thinks. She's allowed to feel the way that she feels. She's allowed to make men uncomfortable. She's allowed to have those views. And with her background, I can kind of see where she's coming from, except you're in Canada and the United States and you don't have those same oppression, not even close to Pakistan. But she's allowed to have those views. She didn't, she was hired by them. So this is, in her mind, her way of getting into the big-time film industry. As for Mangold's film that they revealed, Kennedy also announced that Mangold will take audiences deep into the past, yeah, we know that. And we don't want Mangold. Mangold is just an idiot, and Indy 5 was horrible. Kennedy previously discussed how these two films were connected during... Yeah, whatever. We've been talking about a lot going on in the past that's really knitting us all together. Obviously, there are the Jedi. What happened to the Jedi over time, much like history. How did the Jedi evolve? Can you imagine Kathleen Kennedy and Indy 5 Mangold are putting together the origin of the Jedi, like the origin of a Jedi learning the Force? Guys, can you imagine anything more ridiculous in your life than that? They were wiped out in Order 66 and gradually... No, they weren't wiped out. No, wrong, Kathleen. They weren't wiped out. You've got multiple, many, 50, 100 tons of Jedi, Ahsoka, name it. They're all there. Everybody lived. And even the ones that died, they come back as Force ghosts and they have physical interactions with the world. No. The question that we're going to ask with the new Jedi Order with Rey is, does the galaxy need them anymore? Do they want them back? So there's a lot of food for thought in what we're doing, whether it's in the past. So ultimately, we're not done. It adds, the sequel delves into Rey's courageous endeavor to restore the Jedi. Courageous endeavor, okay, where she assumes the role of a mentor to two promising young students, a girl and a boy, and one of them goes bad and one of them goes good. So they're going to purge some of the ideas from the EU with the solos. But of course, they're not solos because, God forbid, we continue to acknowledge the beloved characters of the OT, who now basically their entire story was pointless because Palpatine stayed alive and the First Order was still there anyway, which is basically the Empire anyway. So the OT's been erased anyway. Destined to emerge as the future leader. Oh, here it is. As her training progresses, it becomes evident that the girl, once again, possesses extraordinary abilities destined to emerge as the future leader. Why would you say that? Why would you say that to people in Kathleen Kennedy's insane. I don't think she has any media or promotional acumen at all. She is so bad at this. What is she doing there? Why would you come out and say that? I'm not saying it's good or bad. Although it does feel like it's the same old thing, the girl bosses and stuff. But the fans are thinking Rey's way too OP, and well, she is, and there was no story arc, and she just did everything without any problems. So why would you come out and say that to a fan base that is majority male? At the absolute lowest polls, it's 64% male dominated. Even today, which I would argue are very generous polls. It's just, as for Mangold, he provides details about the vision for telling Gizmodo he wants to create the 10 Commandments of the Force. Oh my gosh. Oh, I got nothing against the 10 Commandments, but bro, why? What is that supposed to do? What does that have to do with a galaxy far, far away? Where's the escapism? So when I mentioned to Kathy the idea that I had about going backward, really far backward. I was surprised that it excited her and other wonderful people. So I think she just announces stuff. I don't think Bobby is even involved. For me, it's about I want to be part of the saga, but I also don't want to be holding so much lore in the air that you can't hardly tell a story. And what I really wanted to do, what I told her, was just can we make the kind of 10 Commandments of the Force, a kind of origin story of how the Force came to be known, understood, wielded, and harnessed. What a absolute disaster. For all intents and purposes, it looks like Kathleen Kennedy would continue to shape Star Wars in her own image. Yes, she's made it abundantly clear that's exactly what she's doing by noting the George Lucas era culminated with Lucasfilm rebooting the franchise with The Force Awakens and subsequently killing off Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. Neither of which bothers me at all, them dying, but it definitely bothers me the way they died. Not only that, but she had Yoda as a Force ghost tap into the dark side of the Force and destroy the Jedi Temple. Who says he tapped into the dark side? I just think it was stupid. He was trying to be funny. It was just a corny, we're going to try to make him like he was at the beginning of Empire. And it was dumb. And it breaks lore because Force ghosts can't interact with the physical world. They're very limited. What do you make of Kennedy's reason? So the whole thing's a disaster, guys. The whole thing's a disaster. It's a disaster. And I don't even blame this Chinoy. People get on me on Twitter and stuff. It's not her fault. The more I look into this and these articles and stuff, the more I realize it's not her fault. She was hired by this idiot. And I can't believe how dumb Kennedy is with this. But unless, again, like I tweeted, unless they're doing this on purpose, they're destroying Star Wars on purpose. For some reason, maybe they use it as a tax write-off. Maybe she just genuinely wants to just ruin it, because she's mad at George Lucas and Steven Spielberg for calling her the coffee lady. Whatever the reason is, it feels like they're doing it on purpose. And hiring Charmin, again, I don't blame Charmin. It's Kennedy hired her. She's honestly, Kathleen Kennedy, again, either nuts or doing it on purpose. There's no middle ground. She's either totally off her rocker and doesn't see the massive amount of writing on the wall, or this is being done on purpose. She's ruining it on purpose for some weird agenda. I've heard many theories on Twitter. I guess we'll see what happens, but this is an absolute joke. So, like I said at the beginning, or earlier, guys, please don't go after Charmin. It's not her fault. This is her background. This is what she does. It's this total loony bin crazy person. South Park was right. She is totally nuts. I can't understand even what's going on anymore. It's just, let me know in the comment section what you think, guys. This is so insane. Thanks for watching. And if you like this content, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Check out any of my other content. I can't even believe it. Have a really good day.